Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the channel, and today is another episode of Unscripted Coding. Unscripted Coding, for those of you new to the channel, is where you get to see completely unscripted development. There's minimal to no planning ahead of these videos. I just come up with a theme or a topic and I start trying to build something on screen. There's going to be mistakes. There's going to be problems. If you're looking for a tutorial, you're in the wrong place. Today's theme are these two really useful pieces of software for Python developers. So first of all, we have PySimpleGUI, GUI, graphical user interface. This allows you to put a graphical interface, meaning buttons, input boxes, text, pictures, on top of your Python script. And the other piece of software is PyInstaller. This one packages Python applications into standalone executables. So this video is really geared towards the newcomer, new programmer. Sadly, it's very much geared towards Python, but I'm sure tools exist for things like Java, C# that do roughly the same thing. But I learned how to program on Python, and I've actually never used either of these two tools, but they would have been a huge boost in terms of my output. So let me just segue back to when I was learning to program. You start with the very simple, add two numbers, multiply these numbers together, and then you start getting more and more difficult algorithms. How do you flip a string backwards? How do you loop? How do you do recursions? And so on. And for me, I got super excited about programming, and I wanted to share with everybody, look at all the cool things you can do. And the reality is that programming really is a superpower because you only need a handful of lessons to actually do something useful. So for example, programming a currency converter, let's say, you're really just multiplying a number over times 1.3 or whatever the conversion rate is from Canadian dollar to US dollar. So no, it's the other way around. US dollar to Canadian dollar, you multiply it by 1.3-ish. And then once you learn to loop it, that's like lesson number 3 or 4, you can start doing that conversion for 100 numbers, 1,000 numbers, 1 billion numbers, and you just loop through it and it spits out the number beside it. Incredibly handy, incredibly useful, and it takes 3 or 4 lines on Python to do it. So naturally, I was super excited to share this, to bring this to work, to bring this to my friends and family and say, hey, look at all of the awesome stuff I'm building. And now looking back, they're very simple projects, but they're meaningful projects. The real problem is, like most programming languages, to run Python, you need the interpreter. Somebody needs to install Python on their computer. What these two tools do is, first, it gives you a graphical user interface. So you don't need to command line it. You don't need to write, a run function at the end of your code. Somebody can click a button, OK, cancel. That makes it much friendlier. PyInstaller gets rid of the need for Python. It just packages it all up into a single executable. So you just double click the exe file like anything else on Windows or Linux or Mac or whatever else. But you double click and it runs the program. Boy, that would have made things a lot easier to share. Instead, when I was starting out, I pasted it on online interpreters. So things like Code Sculptor, so you can share that online. But, not a lot of people used it, not a lot of people cared. Other piece is, I I guess the real thing is I moved into web development so that I can share these things. JavaScript has all sorts of weird, I will never get used to JavaScript, but it was incredibly handy because everybody had an internet browser on their computer. You just send your HTML file and there you go. You have your buttons, you have your boxes, you have your JavaScript code, all ready to run on a phone, on a tablet, on a computer, anywhere. So that was the big advantage of web development. But I never really forgot about Python. I love the language. I love working with Python. It's just so easy. It's just so readable and clean to me. And so I'm very excited to try these two tools to see what we can build. Okay, so when I started this video, I didn't really know what exactly I was going to build. I knew I wanted to use PySimpleGUI and PyInstaller, but was I going to build a currency converter? Was I going to build, a nuclear bomb? I didn't really know, but came across Poke API. You guys saw me look through it. I've seen this API before, and so it was really interesting. Well, it's interesting because I know that today, well, not today, but this year is the 25th anniversary of Pokemon. Can you believe it? 25 years of this franchise. So it might be cool to build like a really simple application. And so this Poke API looks like it's well thought out and pretty robust. So if we want a list of Pokemon, we just go and look. They do have a limit of 20 and up of how many Pokemon you can see at a time. Then you kind of offset it. So in this case, limit 100 means you want a list of 100 Pokemon. Offset 200 means you start at 201. So unknown is Pokemon 201. And if you take that number, you can find out more about that Pokemon. So here, oh, this brings back memories. You have their abilities, you have their moves, you have, height, ID, location encounters. That's really useful. But I'm not planning to build like a super sophisticated piece of software. Like the point of this is to demo a graphical user interface and packaging this up. But this is pretty cool. Ooh, sprites. Okay, so having sprites means that we might be able to put some images into our application as well. So okay, that's a really tiny looking image, but nevertheless, you don't want nobody wants to see a program that's just buttons and text. And I'm, truthfully, I don't think, well, we're not going to make a very nice looking graphical user interface. Like people spend years and years trying to polish and make a really great user experience. And the other thing is simple GUI. The point is to have a very simple and quick graphical user interface. There are other user interface packages for Python that will give you more options to make it look really nice, to make it more polished. But you can see like ours is going to look something like this, where it is not that nice looking. So yeah, so I just wanted to let you guys know what exactly we're going to be building, and let me just get right back into it. Okay, so we are getting quite close here to a reasonable application. You have, all 1,100 or so Pokemon, and then if you click, I just love these like first 150. I mean, who doesn't have great memories of like Pokemon Red and Blue? So, King. Um, I will have to say, like, you can very easily pull more information and put it down here. That's not the point of this video. And so you can easily put all of their abilities. You probably want to do nice fonts and all of that to make it really nice. But that's not the point here. We just want a very simple demonstration. It's actually very, very quick to build this out. Let me just run through this line by line for you guys. Well, not line by line, but let's see where we are. So you got to work your way backwards because they want you to start with the smallest details up front. So these columns, these list boxes, and then you work your way all the way down to the window. It's a bit strange. It actually reminds me a little bit of Flutter, but the syntax, you'll have to get used to it a little bit. And the idea is really simple. You have these basic components. So you have the title, the text, images, and you also have this handy list box. That's probably a more complicated widget or component. And then you can start grouping them up. So we have this left column, we have this right column, we have this footer, and then we have this layout, which eventually wraps its way into the layout and so into the window, the full window. Now, the layout is probably the best way to show this. You have these lists within a list of layouts. So the layout will list a series of lists, and each of those lists is a row, basically, a row going left to right. And so the first item on that list shows up right at the top. So we have a list of a single item, which is the title, Pokemon Select. Then we have another list here, which is the left column, then the right column, which we've packaged into their column format, but I don't think that matters. And that goes from left to right, very intuitive. And then we have the footer at the bottom. And so if I want to change this footer, and I think it looks a bit odd right now, I can just move these components in here instead. So let's say I want this GitHub beside the close button in the same row. I have the GitHub, and the close button should probably be anchored to the left. So let's just move it here, get rid of this footer piece, and we restart. And there, it's exactly as you expect. Mind you, PySimpleGUI, like, you don't have a whole lot of customization options. You are going to run into, I wish I could make this button look better. I wish I could change, nudge this left and right a little bit like a web page or something. But it's really not designed for that. It's really designed for quickly getting a window together. And now that I know how this works and I get the syntax, I think this will be super duper quick to do. And then here we have the looping. And so the looping does two things. You have events where you can click buttons or close the window. And I've just stolen this from the demo. And then you have values, which also get updated over time. If you have input boxes or you're clicking items in this list box, you're changing the values. And what we're doing here is looping over and over while true. Every time the event or values change, we start updating this. So well, for values, it's not even doing that. It's just changing every time. Every time it's looping through, this window name, so over here, Charmeleon, is updating according to the input value. So, and then now that it's changed to Blastoise, the name changes. And then we do this over and over and over. I realize this now that this is probably not the best place to put this request since we're pinging it over and over. So let's just stop that. So this code is not a shining, polished beacon of great code. You should be packaging all of this into a function. So I imagine this should go into like a main function as well. But I will probably change this off screen because I don't want to hammer the Poke API over and over needlessly. So the next step is to package this all up with PyInstaller. Now, normally this is like a 10-second job, but where I think it'll be very interesting, and I don't know how it'll handle it, is that we're writing these files. So I'm writing onto the folder a sprite.png file to display. It can't, SimpleGUI just can't display a URL image. You need it somewhere on your computer, and that was a challenge. So I had to save it onto a computer and then post it back up. I don't know how PyInstaller will handle it. Hopefully it will just very smoothly, put it beside where the executable is or something along those lines. So I'm just going to stop talking. We'll see how that goes. I got good news, everyone. It's working. Now, you'll notice that there is a jump between, the last footage and now, and I will explain that in a second, but I just wanted to show you when I run this, it puts out a console kind of page, and then you have your application. Now, the console is because I put the -c command. You can remove that, and then all you get is this beautiful window for you. That's the only thing that I'd pop up. So it looks really, really good. It works, of course. Now, thinking back, I really enjoyed using SimpleGUI. I obviously had a bit of adjusting to do, and I had to read and figure out how to use it, but it's very elegant, it's very simple, and it's a serviceable interface. I admit, you can definitely do a lot more polishing, you can definitely make it look nicer, but for somebody building a currency converter, somebody showing some very simple scripts, this is more than enough. All you need is some place to print out text and buttons to close and maybe an input. So that has been excellent. PyInstaller, I obviously struggled with it. The reason is because, and I think it's because, I have multiple versions of Python running on this computer. And what's happening is it couldn't pull the tkinter files into the executable. And I think the problem is it's trying to figure out where it's pulling from. And in the end, it just didn't put it in at all. So what I did was I just installed it onto my Surface in front of me. That has a clean just 3.6 running, and you just pip install, and then you run the one command, and it spits out your file. So it could not be an easier process as well. PyInstaller, I highly recommend as well. It's 2 lines, 2 commands, and you get your file. So I wish somebody had shown me this when I started out, because I'm that annoying guy that wants to share with everybody what I built, and I guess I'm still doing this now. It really sucked to share, just raw code. Nobody understood that. Nobody, what does that mean? What does this do? But if you have a really simple interface right here, you can turn your simple, rock, paper, scissors, or your simple coin toss application into something that people can see and share. So that's all there is to it. You can obviously make this a better application. You can pull more information in here. We're not like, that wasn't the point. The point is, there's a very easy way to compile this all together and share it. And it works remarkably well. Pairing simple GUI and PyInstaller, really, really an excellent combo. And so I hope all of you guys are inspired to start sharing your applications, because even the simplest applications, it doesn't take very many lines, 5, 10 lines of code, can actually become a really useful file. Oh, and that reminds me, the worry that I did have, and please remember, this is not really polished code. There's all sorts of problems with it, but I'm really pleased that I can still fetch this sprite file and put it in here. So that didn't pose any problem for PyInstaller whatsoever. It just runs along the side here, and then we change images. I'm jumping all over the place, but hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you liked it, thumbs up. If you didn't, please leave a comment. I am happy to take feedback, and if you liked it, I also take feedback for future episodes, future kind of tools that we can tinker with, or ways we could have improved this project. I do have some really awesome videos upcoming, so do subscribe if you enjoyed this video. I think maybe not the next video, but I do have a few videos down the line that I'm very excited to share with you guys. And that's it. So thanks for watching.